She spent 47 years cooking for everyone else. And the answer to what was destroying her legs was sitting in her own kitchen the whole time. I need you to think about something for a moment. This morning, when you got out of bed, what did your legs feel like? Did they carry you? Or did they make you negotiate? That first step on the floor? That walk to the bathroom? That moment at the kitchen counter when you realized you needed to hold on to something you didn't use to hold on to? Most people call that getting older. But here's what nobody is telling you. What you're feeling in your legs right now, that heaviness, that stiffness, that quiet weakness, is not a sentence. It's a signal. And the 5 things that can begin to change it are probably already in your kitchen. Not in a pharmacy, not in a supplement store, in your kitchen. Stay with me. Because by the time this video ends, you're going to understand something that most doctors never take the time to explain. And you're going to know exactly what to do tonight before you go to sleep. But first, I need to tell you about Ruth. Ruth is 71 years old. She lives in Kentucky. For 47 years, Ruth cooked for everyone. Her husband, her 4 children. Her grandchildren every Sunday without exception. People in her family described Ruth's kitchen as the most comforting place they'd ever been. Ruth knew every ingredient in that kitchen, where it came from, what it did, how to use it. But 2 years ago, something started happening. Standing at the kitchen counter for 20 minutes became difficult. Not painful, not yet. Just draining in a way she couldn't explain. Her legs would start to feel heavy. A dull ache would settle in her calves. And some mornings, walking from the bedroom to that kitchen she loved, felt like a distance her body was no longer sure about. She told her doctor. He said, "Ruth, you're 71. This is expected," she told her daughter. Her daughter said, "Mom, maybe just sit down more." Ruth sat down more. And here's what happened. The more she sat, the worse it got. The kitchen visits got shorter. The Sunday dinners got simpler. The grandchildren stopped asking her to dance at family parties because somewhere along the way they'd stopped expecting her to say yes. Ruth didn't lose her legs dramatically. She lost them quietly, one small surrender at a time, until the day her youngest granddaughter, 8 years old, climbed onto the kitchen counter to get something from a high shelf because Grandma couldn't reach it anymore. Ruth watched that little girl do what she used to do effortlessly, and she made a decision. She was going to look inside her own kitchen for what her body had been missing. What she found, and what happened next, is what this entire video is about. Before I tell you what Ruth found, you need to understand what was actually happening inside her legs, because this is the part most people never hear. After 60, 3 things begin to change simultaneously inside the tissue and vessels of your legs. And this is where most people get it completely wrong. They think it's just age. It isn't. First, chronic low-grade inflammation accumulates inside your joints and connective tissue. You can't see it. You can't feel it as pain. Not at first. But it is there, quietly, constantly, like a slow fire that never fully extinguishes. Second, the natural lubrication of your joints decreases. Think of a door hinge that hasn't been oiled in years. It doesn't break. It just becomes harder to move. Every step, every morning, every time you stand up. Third, and this is the one almost nobody talks about, the blood vessels supplying your leg muscles begin to lose their elasticity. Less blood reaches your calves, your feet, your ankles, and muscles that don't receive enough blood fatigue in minutes instead of hours. That's what was happening to Ruth. Not age, not weakness, inflammation, reduced lubrication. compromised circulation. 3 specific problems, which means specific solutions. And Ruth, without knowing the science, found all 5 of them, right where she'd always kept them. Are you ready? Because what comes next might change how you look at your kitchen forever. The first thing Ruth changed was something she'd been using for decades, but never for herself. Turmeric. Ruth had always kept turmeric in her spice cabinet, used it in soups, in rice, occasionally in tea. But she'd never understood what it was doing inside the body of the person eating it. Here's what it does. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, and curcumin does something remarkable. It directly inhibits the enzymes responsible for producing chronic inflammation, that silent fire we talked about. Curcumin is one of the few natural substances that can begin to put it out. A 2019 meta-analysis in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that curcumin supplementation significantly reduced inflammatory markers in adults with joint pain and mobility issues within 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use. But here's what most people get wrong. Turmeric alone is not enough. Without one specific addition, your body absorbs almost none of the curcumin. That addition is black pepper. 1 pinch, that's all it takes. The piperine in black pepper increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. 2,000%. From 1 pinch of black pepper. Ruth started making golden milk every night before bed. 1 cup of warm milk, half a teaspoon of turmeric, 1 pinch of black pepper, a touch of honey. Within 3 weeks, the morning stiffness in her legs had begun to ease. Not gone, not a miracle, but measurably, undeniably different. And that was only the first ingredient. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people think of walnuts as brain food, and they are, but what almost nobody tells you is what walnuts do specifically for your legs. Ruth had a jar of walnuts on her counter for years, occasionally ate them while cooking, never deliberately, never consistently. Here is what she was missing. Walnuts are one of the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3s do something specific for the blood vessels supplying your leg muscles. They restore elasticity. Remember the third problem we identified? Blood vessels losing their ability to expand? Omega-3s directly support endothelial function, the ability of your vessel walls to relax and open when your muscles need more blood. Better vessel elasticity means more blood reaching your calves, more oxygen to your leg tissue, less fatigue, less heaviness, warmer feet. A 2021 study in prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and essential fatty acids found that consistent omega-3 intake significantly improved peripheral circulation in adults over 60 within 8 weeks. 2 to 3 walnuts daily, soaked overnight, eaten in the morning on an empty stomach. Soaked walnuts digest more easily, and nutrients absorb more completely. By the end of the first month, Ruth was standing at her kitchen counter for 40 minutes. Not comfortably, but standing, and she was only halfway through what she'd found. This one surprised Ruth more than any other. She'd been using sesame seeds for decades, in salads, on bread, occasionally in cookies. She thought of them as flavor, not medicine. But here is what sesame seeds actually are. Sesame contains 2 compounds found in almost no other food, sesamin and sesamol. These are lignans, a specific class of antioxidants that work directly on the walls of your blood vessels. Sesamin inhibits the inflammatory compounds that cause arterial walls to stiffen. Sesamol protects the inner lining of your vessels from oxidative damage, the cellular aging that narrows the arteries supplying your legs. And here's the number that stopped Ruth cold when she finally read it. 100 grams of sesame seeds contains approximately 1,000 milligrams of calcium, compared to 123 milligrams in the same amount of milk. 8 times more calcium than milk. In the seeds she'd been sprinkling on salads without a second thought. A 2019 study in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that consistent sesame consumption reduced blood pressure and improved arterial compliance, the ease with which arteries expand under blood flow, in adults with hypertension. More compliant arteries, more blood reaching your feet, less of that familiar heaviness by evening. 1 tablespoon daily, lightly toasted, added to oatmeal, yogurt, or salad. That's all it takes. Now we get to the one Ruth almost skipped, because it requires a little preparation. She almost decided it wasn't worth the effort. She was wrong. Sprouted lentils, or sprouted chickpeas, are what nutritional researchers call a complete functional food for aging muscle tissue. After 60, your muscles lose protein faster than they rebuild it. This process, called sarcopenia, is one of the primary drivers of leg weakness in older adults. Not injury, not disease. Simply, your muscles are losing the raw material they need to stay strong every single day. Sprouted lentils deliver 2 things simultaneously. First, high-quality plant protein, the building blocks your leg muscles need to rebuild what they're losing. Second, iron. When iron levels drop, hemoglobin drops. When hemoglobin drops, less oxygen reaches your muscles. Less oxygen means earlier fatigue, that tingling in your feet, that numbness after sitting, that weakness after only minutes of activity. Ruth's iron levels were low. Her doctor had mentioned it once, then moved on. She started adding sprouted lentils 3 times a week, with lemon juice, which dramatically increases iron absorption. Within 6 weeks, the tingling in her feet had reduced by more than half. And now, the 5th ingredient, the one Ruth almost dismissed entirely. Fenugreek seeds. And here is what makes fenugreek different from everything else on this list. Everything we've covered works on inflammation, circulation, or muscle protein. Fenugreek works on all 3 simultaneously. It contains compounds called saponins that directly reduce joint inflammation. It contains diosgenin, a natural compound that supports muscle recovery. And it improves insulin sensitivity, which matters enormously for legs because poor insulin response reduces nutrient delivery to muscle tissue. The mistake most people make with fenugreek is eating it dry. The correct method: 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds, soaked overnight in a glass of water. In the morning, drink the water first. Then chew the seeds slowly. Soaking activates the compounds that remain dormant in the dry seed. Without soaking, you get perhaps 30% of the benefit. With soaking, you get all of it. A 2020 study in phytotherapy research found that consistent fenugreek consumption significantly reduced joint stiffness and muscle fatigue in adults over 60 within 4 weeks. Ruth started fenugreek the 5th week. And by the end of week 8, she cooked Sunday dinner for the entire family, standing, for 3 hours, without holding the counter once. Her granddaughter didn't need to climb anything. Before we close, Ruth's exact daily protocol: simple, consistent, starting tonight. Morning, 2 to 3 soaked walnuts on an empty stomach. With breakfast, 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds on oatmeal or yogurt. 3 times a week, sprouted lentils with lemon juice. Every evening, 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds soaked overnight and consumed the next morning. Every night before bed, golden milk, warm milk, 1/2 teaspoon turmeric, 1 pinch black pepper. 5 ingredients, already in, or easily found in, any American kitchen. No prescriptions, no procedures, just consistency. Ruth told me something that stayed with me. She said, "I spent 47 years knowing what every ingredient in my kitchen could do for everyone else, and I never once thought to use any of it for myself." How many of us have been doing the same thing? Taking care of everyone around us, and slowly, quietly, without drama, forgetting to take care of the body that makes all of it possible. Ruth's legs didn't fail her because of age. They began to fail because of 5 specific deficiencies that 5 specific foods could address. She found them in her own kitchen. You can too. If this felt familiar, don't scroll away. Leave a comment below. 2 or 3 words. Tell me what you've been feeling in your legs, because someone will read your words today and realize they're not alone. And that recognition, that quiet moment of, "This is me," might be exactly what finally moves them to act. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Hit the like button if Ruth's story reached you. Subscribe to Strong Legs, Independent Life every Tuesday and Saturday at 11 a.m. Because the answer was never that far away. It was always closer than you thought. Keep smiling. Keep moving. And never forget, you've got this.